So we're going to cover 3 different topics from you, from Stephon Clark and updates in his investigation, to what's going on with Kanye West and social media, and then the Boy Scouts are having a name change. So we want to get right into it. Megan has your first story.
Yes, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, I'm creeping over here.
It's okay.
It always creeps up on me this time, but we thank everyone for joining us here today. And we are getting some new results when it comes to the autopsy of Stephon Clark. So we reported this morning that we know that there was an independent autopsy that was performed by Dr. Omalu. And this was an independent autopsy that the family decided to invest in because they wanted to see what happened to Stephon Clark, okay? And so in that, we found that he was shot 8 times. He was shot at 20 times, but he was physically shot 8 times, 2 shots to the back. Well, the Sacramento County Coroner's Office came out with their official autopsy results, which was vetted by a handful of different professionals. And in that, they found that Stephon Clark was in fact shot 7 times and 3 shots to his back. The thing, though, that is different, but the thing that's standing out is that the toxicology report came out, and they found that in Stephon Clark's system, he had Xanax, codeine, cocaine, and cannabis. So the big question this morning, with the release of the official autopsy results and the presence of drugs in Stephon Clark's system, does this change the way you look at the investigation? Does this change the way you look at the investigation? So I want to pop up the results. We have our megaphone question that we asked during the morning blend today, and that was from 5 to 7. In case you didn't vote, you have a chance to right now, abc10.com/vote. And I want to see what these results do say.
So while we're waiting for those to come up, they are popping up right now. And as you guys vote, you'll see them populate at the bottom of your screen. If you could join us in sharing this so that more people can join our conversation, we would love that. David Wong, I see that you've already shared. My mom, Marian Daytil, you have shared.
Thank you, Ms. Daytil.
Love it. And Chris Hooks, digital producer, he is watching from afar. He is watching? Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we need you guys to vote so that we know where you stand so we can ask the question, well, why do you feel that way? Because right now, I'm not seeing any votes.
So I'm going to type the link into the screen so you guys can text, or not text, but vote in the comments. And guys, here's what I was finding on social media earlier today, that people are saying, remember that there's always a spin in something. So when that internal report came out, or when the independent report came out, the family doesn't necessarily want everyone to know that there were drugs present in Stephon Clark's system.
And I think, too, it was performed too early because toxicology, the results, it takes a while.
Got it, okay.
So I think now that they know that, but sure, to your point, that's not something necessarily that, and we're just assuming that's not what the parents or the family would want to come out. But again, we'll ask the question.
Votes are coming in.
100% of you.
100% of you said, no, it doesn't change the way you think about the investigation. And what I haven't seen, oh, here we go. Bob Harold says, yes, of course it changes everything. So, Bob, we want to know why you feel that way. Kalaya is saying that, yes, it does change. So we want to see your votes reflected in the poll online. You can go to www.abc10.com/vote to let us know.
But we also want to, like you said, we want to know why. So obviously we want you to vote, but why do you feel that way?
Exactly.
Put your comments in there so we can start this discussion of verifying or even looking at 2 different autopsies. Which one do you believe?
And I can understand for those who are saying, yes, of course it changes it, because you have new information. Anytime you have new information, it causes you to pause for a second, hopefully look at all sides of this and go, okay, so he had drugs in his system. Okay, does that still mean that this man, who was unarmed, by the way, in case you aren't familiar with the story, he was shot at 20 times. They got reports, police got reports of someone breaking into vehicles. They found this guy in his grandmother's backyard. He was holding something in his hand. They thought it was a gun. They shot him 20 times, shot at him 20 times. It turns out he only had a cell phone. So did he still deserve to die, even if he had all the drugs in the world in his system?
That's my point in this. I think it doesn't matter what state he was in. The fact that he was moving away from the cops, that he was unarmed, just like Megan said, it doesn't change the facts of the investigation that the police shouldn't have shot at him 20 times when he was already on the ground.
And if that's how you choose to view it,
that's
right?
Me.
Right, exactly. Then, and you could even go a step further in that line of connecting the dots, and that if he was on so many different substances that can alter your thinking and your behavior, perhaps that was not a moment to engage in. This person actually was in need. They were not in control of their actions. If you wanted to go so far, for example, if someone is blackout drunk, right?
Sure. Okay.
And someone is approaching them and they're menacing and doing things like that, if they can immediately ascertain from their behavior and some of the other things, slurred speech, red eyes, some of these other things, they may approach the situation differently, meaning that they may do something that they really don't want to do. That kind of, they're not really driving the bus, so to speak. And so that's even more cause for restraint in that moment, because the chemicals in that system are kind of determining their actions in a way.
But if you have
In the defense of the police, though, they would never know that going into the situation.
Exactly.
You're walking into the back of somebody's house.
Right.
They could be in any mental capacity at that moment.
Exactly. Because they had no prior contact other than here's a report. They had eyes on from the helicopter, and they were trying to make first contact. So you're absolutely right. All I'm saying is that sometimes these toxicology reports actually for the person that was shot can indicate that actually they were in need of help, not in interaction that ended violently. I'm personally not going there because this is all brand new to me. But one of the things that struck me, let me go back to a quick story.
Okay, please.
Okay, this is kind of a weird one, but I like to get weird a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I remember one day in the newsroom in San Luis Obispo, I was a weather guy there, and we got this fax that came in. And a man fell off his ladder and had serious injuries, and he ultimately passed away. And he just fell off his ladder. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a sad story.
Tragic,
and at the very end, it said, alcohol may have been involved. And I thought, wait a second. This is not a criminal case. Yeah. He only hurt himself and ultimately died. This really sounds like a tragic accident.
Yeah.
How is this very personal, related to toxicology information being released in a police report? And why should that be allowed in the first place? So I've always struggled with that. And some of these things, is it really necessary to release the toxicology? Maybe in this case it is, honestly. But I always thought that there's, that's their personal, in medical information with HIPAA laws, you're not allowed to release any of that stuff.
Right.
That is, for example, if a suspect is injured in a law enforcement pursuit, then they get to the hospital, the only thing they're going to release is the condition. They're not going to release any other details because now they're in the hospital. Hospital can't release all the specific details.
Yeah.
So it always made me pause for a second. Why can your personal toxicology just all of a sudden be released to the public when it's involved with law enforcement, as opposed to if you were brought into the hospital in that way? Like, in one fashion, you're protected by all these laws. In the other way, all of a sudden you're not. Yeah. I will say this. If I'm ever doing Christmas lights or going up to blow out the leaves in a leaf cutter, there is no alcohol in my system because I don't want to live a good life, right? And then have that be in the obituary because whether it's right or wrong, it ends up in the report for whatever reason.
Punctuation mark that people will go, oh, okay. And I think what it is, and you asked that question, and it caused me to really sit here and think for a second. I think what it allows us is the transparency, right? And SACPD has said from the get-go, they had certain amount of days, was it 90 days? How long did they have to release the video cam, the body cam footage? And it was released within 72 hours or so. So the transparency level has been at an all-time high, which we appreciate. This is just more information, which at the end of the day is the information that we're given. And I think as human beings, when we want to be able to pinpoint this as something. We want to be able to say, oh,
we need an answer.
This was why. We want to be able to classify it as something. So with these sort of results released to the public, it allows people to go, oh, okay, because you think of all of those drugs, and again, the toxicology report says that he had Xanax, codeine, cocaine, and cannabis in his system. It may skew, but it allows people to go, okay, that's bad, therefore, did this person deserve it? It somehow makes you think that way.
It was this
cause and effect, but I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing to your point.
When the information came out that he had committed previous crimes, everyone was just labeling him as a criminal. But we have to go back and remember that the police didn't know anything about this man. And so whatever happened to him in life doesn't really change the fact that he was shot X number of times and died. And now people are asking, well, was he held accountable for the bad things that he did in life, for the drugs that he had in his system? It's being able to separate those different stories and compartmentalize so that you can really assess the facts. And that's what our legal system has to do. And hats off to them for having to do it. But these comments that are coming in are amazing.
Okay, let's get to
we want to look at those. So Wayne Liu says, put yourself in the cop shoes. You work in an anti-cop, war-on-cop climate. Many of your fellow officers have been shot and killed. You're now face-to-face with a person hopped up on drugs, not that they knew that. in the middle of the night, holding onto something that to them resembled a gun. Later, we found out it was a phone. The person is facing you and not obeying commands. It takes just a fraction of a second for this person to shoot you. You literally have a split second to react. And that was well put.
Can we? It was well put, and we appreciate your comment. Can we talk about this morning how Walt Gray had that conversation with Chief Daniel Hahn? And he says that, and this shocked me, and it's just something that I had never heard before, that most cops will go their entire career never having shot someone, never having killed someone. He said he's going on
or fired a gun,
or fired a gun at someone. He's going on year 31. He still has never. And he's the police chief. So you go back to that moment and thinking how uncommon it was for them in that moment to be faced with a situation like this, where they actually had to pull the gun. Was the training enough? How do you ever train someone, though, to be prepared in a moment that they've never gone through? So is there someone to blame? Did Stephon Clark deserve to die? I think, a lot of people will say no. Some will say, well, yes, maybe, because Alan Murray says, really, red eyes, you wouldn't be able to see if he had redness in his eyes in the dark? How about these reporters go do the evolution course that the cops go through and see how they would actually react to scenarios like this one? I think that would change their views completely. Stop being Monday morning quarterbacks.
So
cops have to make a split-second decision.
Did that, and she pointed out that it can be helpful, but her question to law enforcement was, how does this help? Because you guys are trained individuals. You guys do this all the time. I'm doing this one time. So I share my recollection of this. I don't know why me doing this is going to help everybody understand this, because you're the professionals, and your experience in this scenario is going to be vastly different than some
like
untrained reporter doing it one time. That was her question.
New person, go report it and see if it's hard or not. Well, yes, of course it's going to be hard for them because they've done it one time. We are the ones that should be held accountable because we've been doing this for years and we're in a market that says so. So sort of apples to oranges.
So I want to revisit the votes that we have. 82% of you, it went from 100 to 82% of you say no. Still, your opinion hasn't changed now that you know that the toxicology reports say that there were X number of drugs in Stephon Clark's system when he was killed. But 18% of you do say yes. And so I want to know, the people that are saying yes, that it has changed, I want to know why it changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here's another thing. So now that the toxicology is out, right, there's a couple different ways to look at it, and that's the beauty of transparency. It's out there, so how do you want to grapple with these new facts of the case, right? So in defense of the police officers, they are now interacting with somebody that has various number of chemicals in their body, right? So knowing that, how will they react? It's very uncertain how they would react, right? But in the instance of what I was looking at, Xanax, codeine,
cocaine, and cannabis.
Marijuana, cocaine, many of these are depressants. Many of these, I would assume, would almost take an individual and take their likelihood to engage in aggressive behavior in the other way. If it were PCP, if it were methamphetamines, if it were other things that are well known, that people get disassociated in their brain and act aggressively, as we've seen before. So I would just say this: the defense, and Stephon Clark's, in his defense, and what his attorneys and family is looking at, is that toxicology report may actually be helpful to say he would be less likely to be an aggressive threat toward the officers with that combination of chemicals running through their body. Of course, they'll get the experts that will determine if that's the case. I'm just saying, now that it's out there, we understand more about how this may help or hurt our understanding in either person's case.
Which goes back to answering your question as to why does this information need to be released, so that it's a full story, so you're not just seeing one element of the story, right?
I'm still not drinking a tall boy going on the ladder to do my Christmas lights.
And that's the silver lining in this tragedy, is that maybe it did teach someone something when they go step on a ladder.
But then we're in the comments again, and you guys are having a healthy debate between each other, and I love that you're treating each other with respect. That's great. Sandra Jones says, though, if you have to shoot, why does it always have to be fatal? And this is something we've talked about at length on this show, about in the training that the cops receive, why are they not instructed, or if they are instructed, to shoot, not to kill, but to injure or to slow somebody down?
From my understanding of the training, I have looked into this a little bit.
Okay.
Taser, non-lethal. Pepper spray, non-lethal. The second your gun comes out and you plan to use it, it's lethal. That's it.
Regardless.
It's not Lethal Weapon,
they can't imagine what you're going to do with
It's not the
gun.
movie when you're going to take out a foot or a knee and then they're incapacitated and then you make the next step. In the train, once it gets to that point, and your life is threatened, then you are instructed to end the threat immediately until it's completely neutralized, is what they would call it.
So I'm seeing more of these comments, and I wanted to get to the one that I saw pop up, and this is Debbie Beard Lawson. When you are out late at night doing drugs, breaking into cars, putting yourself in harm's way, not thinking straight, you're making bad decisions, and others are likely to make bad decisions based on your behavior. No one should die. It's unfortunate and sad. Choices were made. Hard call. And we don't know yet. They haven't fully said if Stephon Clark was the person who was breaking into the vehicles, correct? We still don't know if he was the one. I mean, you look at the video and you see someone was running through the backyards and clearly trying to escape, you know, someone, the police in this case, but we don't know if the person who was breaking into cars was Stephon Clark.
And just to throw this out there, let's just say, if that's what if there was another individual involved?
Then someone said, was it another black man? And that's it's a good question.
You just
could have been.
Until you know that for a fact, you have to there's different scenarios that are worth thinking about because we don't have all the information.
That's exactly it. And then wrapping up the comments, we have Gregory Bibbs who says, why, when he never shot at them, keeps commenting, why would they never shot at, I can't even talk. Why, when they never shot at them, they lie to cover it up by muting the cameras, and then when they were asked about it, they lie.
And since the new laws have been in place for the cameras, that cops now have to explain why it is that they are shutting the body cam off. So again, to your point, and going back to why is all of this released, well, hopefully we learn something from this. Policies are amended because of this case. And I want to ask the question one more time, and then we'll wrap this conversation up and move on to the next topic. But with the release of the official autopsy results and the presence of drugs in Stephon Clark's system, does this change your outlook? Does this change the way you look at the investigation?
So I'm looking at it online, and 82% of people said that no, it doesn't change how they feel, with the rest saying yes, it does. So
And if you
still
want to keep voting.
Any thoughts, Michelle?
You know, I'm just listening to you guys talk. I just don't understand how two autopsies can be totally different.
Right.
If they're examining the same person and you're looking at different bullet hole entrances and exits and how different they are on the body. When I looked at both reports, it looked like they were all over the place. They weren't similar at all.
Here's a big question too. Does this hurt Omalu's credibility? I mean, he's very well known. He's a famous person that is a medical examiner that does autopsies. I mean, one of probably the only ones that we could name off the top of our head. And this is a complete contradiction to what 4 other people signed off on. So that's an interesting question.
I would say,
and the fact that the toxicology, it's not that it was left out and this independent autopsy had the results. The toxicology results were not available at that time. So I don't know if I see this and I look at it and go, okay, huge difference. There's a one-shot difference. One-shot difference.
And I don't know that I would call into question his integrity as as an autopsy person. What is the official name
I think
for
it's a
that?
medical examiner.
The person who
medical
performs
examiner. I don't know
autopsies.
An ME,
I wouldn't,
medical examiner, yes.
Okay, so I wouldn't call into question his authority on the topic, because just because we have new news doesn't mean it's completely accurate. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that that particular report is 100% accurate. His could have been.
It was vetted by more people.
It's he said, she said at this point.
All right,
That's
well,
all.
continue to vote. abc10.com/vote. Thanks for watching us here on the ABC 10 Information Network. If you want to see more stories just like this one, click subscribe.